this is my review of Assassination Classroom. Okay, so the episode actually starts off with them in the middle of PE. So Class 3 is going through their assassination drills, courtesy of Kurosama. And sure enough, they're practicing the basics. As Kurosama points out, if they can practice the basics, they'll hold them well. And also points out that they also need to train as much as they can, since their target points out Mach 20, and also he spars with two of the students while he's doing that. And also, of course, Sensei is a little bit upset about the fact that the students kind of like the PE class under Kurosama a little bit better than his. Although, as they point out, there's actually a pretty good reason why Korosensei isn't doing the PE classes anymore. As it turns out, while he is really good at the actual education stuff, he's not so good at the physical side of things. Because he's able to move at Mach 20. So he basically sets the bar way too high for his students, and they're unable to actually keep up. So, yeah, Kurosama is actually a much better PE teacher than Korosensei ever will be, simply because he's human and he's able to actually teach them accurately. And sure enough, Korosensei goes to the sandbox to sulk, and sure enough, builds a giant ass castle while he's at it. So something that Kurosama actually points out as he's sparring to the students, and pointing out that they need to actually focus, because in the time I should mention, in the time he actually built a whole ass Japanese palace out of Chinese, I think. But the point is, he built a Chinese palace in the sandbox, changed clothes into a what is it? I forget what, a kimono, I think, and then also made tea. So he was able to do all of that in the 30 seconds it took for the sparring practice to actually go down. And sure enough, Kurosama then dismisses everybody from PE, and everybody remarks about how much they like Kurosama as a teacher. And Korosensei is a little bit jealous because he thinks that Kurosama is going to take his place as their most favorite teacher. But Kurosama points out that's not really the case, and that all he's really trying to do is have the students kill him, and that's only merely a job and nothing else. Although, Korosensei also points out that Kurosama should start calling him by name, since the students gave him a name, and he would very much like it if Kurosama used it. So which Kurosama actually acknowledges and decides to call him by his name going forward. At least, as far as I remember, he does. I don't fully remember, but in any case, as everybody is working out in PE and is about to go inside, Karma actually shows up and greets Nagisa as like an old friend, because they actually did attend classes together before they got booted to Class E, and then greets Korosensei and claims that he's happy to be working, that he's finally going to be able to work under Korosensei, and that he's finally going to attempt to assassinate him. And Korosensei is happy back. He pointing out that he can't wait to teach Karma, but also points out that he's not allowed to be late. Sure enough, Karma understands that and shakes Korosensei's hand, only to reveal that he actually took bits of the anti-sensei knife, stuck it to his hand, and actually damaged Korosensei's tentacle in the process, and then lunges at him with the rest of the knife and tries to kill him. And everybody's surprised, because this is actually the first time somebody's actually made an attempt on Korosensei, and they've actually managed to hit him. So, Karma is the first person to actually damage Korosensei, on purpose, I might add. There's been a couple of instances where Korosensei has damaged himself to prove a point, but this is the first time one of the students has actually hit him. So, and sure enough, everybody's a little bit excited. And sure enough, Kaede actually leans over to Nagisa and asks him what kind of person Karma is, and Nagisa points out that Karma might actually wind up being a star student, because he's incredibly violent and weapons are his specialty. Sure enough, Karma points out how rudimentary his tactics were, and how Korosensei should have been able to see right through them, but he didn't. And sure enough, and sure enough, points out that he hopes he can play again some other time, and goes into class. And sure enough, they go in to take a quiz, and Korosensei's not handling it well. He starts punching the wall, but his tentacles are way too soft to actually do anything. So he's just kind of just punching the wall half-heartedly, very comically. And sure enough, Korosensei starts to get on everybody else's nerves, and somebody eventually calls him out on it, and he stops. At which point, Karma remarks that he's finished with his quiz, and then pulls out some gelato. And Korosensei remarks that actually pulling out gelato, eating the class is against the rules. But then he realizes it's his gelato. And Korosensei is notably pissed because he's put a lot of work into keeping that gelato nice and cool. He specifically kept it in an ice box and flew it in the outer reaches of the atmosphere just to keep it from melting when he got home. So naturally he put a lot of hard work into keeping that gelato nice and fresh, and is a little upset that Karma's just kind of eating it in front of him. And sure enough, Karma asks him what he's going to do about it, and Korosensei naturally responds he's just going to march over and take it. But then he steps in some anti-him BBs, which Karma left on the floor, and Karma then proceeds to shoot at him with an empty gun, which catches Korosensei off guard. But sure enough, Korosensei is a little bit wary now, because as Karma points out, there's only one way to actually stop him, and that's to kill him. But then he'll stop being a teacher, and sure enough, starts to push Korosensei's buttons, which Nagisa notes Karma is really good at doing. So, in any case, Korosensei realizes that he needs to actually figure out a way to actually deal with Karma and not give in to his bullying. Meanwhile, Nagisa goes to the train station and sees off Sugino, but then two of the other classmates from the main campus start talking shit mainly about Nagisa and also about Karma, pointing out that he got shipped to Class E as well, and they're a little bit, and they say they'd rather die than go to Class E. At which point Karma shows up, breaks a bottle, and says that can be arranged. So yeah, Karma's a little bit messed up. And sure enough, the students decide that it's probably better not to mess with Karma, and they just run off. So, and Karma sure enough asks Nagisa if he's okay, and Nagisa responds that he is. And Karma begins to hit up Nagisa, mainly because Nagisa's keeping a bunch of tabs on Korosensei to tag all of his weaknesses, basically, and asks him if Korosensei minds being called an octopus. And Nagisa points out that no, he actually owns it. Everything he does is octopus themed. So he points out that Korosensei actually loves being called an octopus, and even does this one thing, and even makes octopus traps in the sandbox when he can. So yeah, it's clear that Korosensei doesn't really mind being an octopus. And sure enough, Karma remarks that he's actually happy now that he's actually met an honest-to-God teacher. Because, as he points out, he doesn't have a very high standpoint of teachers, and thought he was just a monster. But now that he knows he's an actual teacher and saw what kind of personality he's like, he's happy now that he can kill an actual teacher. Pointing out that his last teacher up and died, or at least according to him, not quite the case, but we'll get to that. And is just happy that he can finally kill an honest-to-God teacher. And sure enough, the next day, as Korosensei is mumbling to himself about his pay and how he doesn't have enough to buy another gelato, he walks into class and sees the sullen faces on everybody, and is a bit curious as to why they're a bit upset. But then he realizes quickly why. There's a dead octopus on his desk now. And Karma points out that he's the one who put it there. And sure enough, remarks that he should be the one to clean it up, and Korosensei just picks it up and tells him that he should, and begins to march over to Karma. But sure enough, instead of him actually taking the bait, he instead runs to the faculty office, grabs the missile that he got a couple episodes ago, and uses it to cook the octopus into octopus balls, which he then makes Karma eat, pointing out that he feels like Karma has been neglecting his nutrition, and then says that no matter how many times Karma makes an attempt on his life, every attempt on his life is another chance for him to do his thing. So he looks forward to Karma's next assassination attempt. And sure enough, for the rest of the day, none of Karma's assassination attempts work. As Nagisa points out, he's actually put Korosensei on high alert, so now Karma is unable to actually kill Korosensei and catch him off guard. Because now Korosensei's guard is up, and he knows that anything Karma is going to try and pull. So basically, he just kind of has a sixth sense to this kind of thing now. He knows that Karma is going to continue his relentless assault until proven otherwise that he can't do anything. And sure enough, it works for the entire rest of this episode. Korosensei just kind of beautifies Karma in a word. He just makes Karma look so pretty. He gives Karma the works. He combs his hair in math class. He gives him a pretty apron in home ec. That kind of stuff. Eventually Karma at the day's end goes to the cliffside to sit on a tree, and sure enough, Nagisa followed shortly by Korosensei go looking for him. And Karma and Nagisa have a bit of a heart-to-heart, pointing out that no matter what he does, nothing is going to work. And sure enough, when Korosensei shows up, Karma begins to ask him if he sees himself as a teacher first and foremost, which he does. It asks him if he would be willing to put his life on the line for one of his students, which again is yes. And Karma, realizing that he now may have an actual way of killing Korosensei, throws himself off the cliff. And sure enough, that's basically Karma's plan. Throw himself off the cliff, and there are actually two scenarios that he's actually thinking through in his head. Either Korosensei will have to slow down to catch him, at which point he'll be shot, or Korosensei will just let Karma hit the ground and Karma will die. And sure enough, Karma begins to have his life flash before his eyes, which is kind of a recurring trope. I'm not entirely sure if this is an actual thing. I've never had a near-death experience, and I hope to God I don't. But basically, Karma has a near-death experience as he's plummeting off the cliff, and it's revealed to us, the audience, why he has such a low view of teachers. As it turns out, his teacher, which is the same one from Nagisa's flashback, his teacher said that he would have his back always, but then Karma actually beats up a bully, and because he was making fun of Class E, and since he kind of doesn't really approve of the whole bully Class E because they're worse than us mindset. And his teacher, Adam, immediately turns on him, because as it turns out, the bully he beat up was the class valedictorian. And sure enough points out that it's going to ruin his reputation, and begins to put in the transfer for Karma to move to Class E, and that he'll be starting his third year in Class E. Which is kind of what caused Karma to turn against his teachers and hate teachers in general. His teacher said he would always have his back, but then his teacher stopped having his back, and he realized that his teacher was full of crap. And in retaliation, he trashes his office. And sure enough, that's why Karma hates teachers so much, and why he's been so adamant on actually killing Korosensei. He wants to take his angst out on an actual teacher. And sure enough, the first opportunity he gets after his suspension happens to be Korosensei. So, yeah, basically he just wants to kill Korosensei because he doesn't respect teachers at all because of what his last teacher did to him. So, yeah, Karma just kind of doesn't like teachers because his teacher kind of just turned on him the second it stopped being advantageous to him. So, yeah, Karma just kind of doesn't like teachers for that reason. But sure enough, shortly after his life flashes before his eyes, he stops falling. As it turns out, Korosensei, there was a third option that he wasn't thinking of. Korosensei used his tentacles to make a net, which also made it so that Karma couldn't actually shoot him, because apparently Korosensei's tentacles are too sticky to actually, they're just sticky for whatever reason, and they're just sticky, and they cause Karma to be unable to move because he's now tangled up in Korosensei's tentacles. And Korosensei remarks how good Karma's assassination techniques was, but also points out that for future reference, no student is ever going to die on his watch, which finally gets Karma to recognize Korosensei as a teacher. And sure enough, Korosensei, after rescuing him, has a bit of a heart-to-heart, pointing out that he's now proud that his loving and nurturing and pampering actually paid off, and now Karma is actually starting to see him as a teacher. And now Karma's still going to continue to assassinate him, because that's the whole point of the show. But now he's not going to be so aggressive and off to the balls about it. He's going to try and be more of a student and stop trying to interrupt classes. He's going to be a student, but he's also going to try and assassinate Korosensei as well. And Korosensei is proud of that. But, of course, the Karma has one last trick up his sleeve, which is that he actually swiped Korosensei's wallet when he wasn't looking and spent all the money in it. So, now Korosensei has no money for gelato rather than having not enough. So, yeah, that's how the episode ends. Korosensei loses all of his money. It's a funny ending, but yeah, Korosensei ain't too happy about it. So, yeah, as I said, this episode starts off with Karma being reluctant to accept Korosensei as a teacher and just going full out assault mode on him. But then as the episode progresses, Karma eventually realizes that Korosensei is indeed a teacher who will have his back, and realizes that he could probably trust him as a teacher. Which I don't think Karma has fully changed his mindset on teachers yet, but I get the feeling that he's going to warm up to Korosensei in time. He's at least the very least started in this episode. He's acknowledged that Korosensei is a teacher who will have his back, but I don't think he's ready to trust his teachers yet because of what his last teacher did to him. So that's going to be some character development that's going to go on as the series progresses. But yeah, basically Korosensei was able to get somebody who doesn't like teachers very much to do not a complete 180, but at the very least start to do a complete 180. So yeah, Karma still has a bit of a ways to go because yeah, he still doesn't trust teachers, and I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon, but at the very least, he trusts Korosensei, at least enough to save his life. So, there's that. But in any case, yeah, that's my review of Assassination Classroom. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also, be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only $2 a month. It really helps me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks. So my way saying thanks. So be sure to check those out in the description below as well. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.